State Senator and now Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General Mays Middleton of Galveston. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Eye on Politics and congratulations on your win in the primary runoff.
Hey, thank you for having me on today, Jack.
You bet. So, wanted to just ask, to what do you attribute your 10% margin of victory over Central Texas Congressman Chip Roy?
Look, I traveled every single corner of this state from El Paso to Texarkana to Beaumont to Brownsville and everywhere in between. But look, I want to thank the people of Texas for delivering this victory. It is an honor. It is a privilege to get to represent our great state, especially on this bigger level. And my family was there as well, my wife, kids, all the thoughts, all the prayers. It's been amazing. It's been very humbling in this process, and I'm grateful for our great state. I love Texas my whole life, and I love it even more after traveling every last square inch here. We have one great state to go fight for, and the reason why this is so important, Jack, is we don't have another Texas to move to.
And so I wanted to ask you, I guess picking up on that thought, you campaigned as MAGA Mays Middleton. Certainly you became well known across the state because of these ads. And I remember you telling me that your number one priority was to defeat the left.
Yeah.
And so is that still going to be your number one priority, or are you going to pivot to the general election electorate, which is certainly a lot broader than the Republican primary voters?
Well, Jack, look, we're in a spiritual battle for the future of our state. They're trying to destroy Texas, and I mean the left. And that is why this fight is so important. They want to drag us down, like they've done New York, California, all the others. Look at James Tallarico running for office. You literally have Democrats running now for statewide on the campaign promise of not following the law. Right? He said that God was non-binary transgender, that there was a biblical argument for abortion, and that the Ten Commandments was unchristian and un-American. And the Democrat in my race for Attorney General, Nathan Johnson, he actually had a debate in his primary. And he said the number one law he would not enforce and not follow is one I authored and passed, the women's privacy law, which kicks men out of women's restrooms and locker rooms. Right? This is common sense right here. And we've got to make sure, and I will make sure, that those Texas values are protected and defended, and I will aggressively enforce our laws to do so. But I also want to talk about last night as well. Chip Roy called me at about 8:30. I'm very grateful that he did that. You don't always get concession calls in this business. But it shows you that that's the Texas way. That's the right thing to do, and I'm grateful for that. And we had a discussion, and he is all in this November to make sure that we keep Texas red, and I will need his help, and he is committed to that. And not only that, his fight to pass the SAVE Act. That's incredibly important for our whole country, and I hope and I pray that he gets that done. There's much to do, of course, on that front, and I fully support him in that battle to get the SAVE Act finished in Congress and into law.
I know during the Republican primary, it was a very costly primary, and then the runoff as well. And you spent, your own money on this. Is that something that we're going to see continue now in the general election?
Look, we got to do what it takes to save Texas. You have money pouring in from out of state. You have all these third parties, these woke left-wing groups that are trying to ruin our state, right? Whether that's the George Soros DAs that got elected in Travis County or Harris County or Dallas County. Now they're going for the state legislature. Now they're going for our statewide positions. And we expect hundreds of millions of dollars to pour into Texas. And I'll guarantee you every single one of those dollars from out of state comes with those out-of-state values that are attempting to undermine the conservative values of faith and family and freedom that Texas was founded on. And there is no doubt in my mind that they see us as the threat. They see us as the enemy, because so goes Texas, so goes America. This is it. If they take Texas, they take this whole country. We cannot even elect a Republican president. The left is well aware of that, and they're all in the fight. and I'm all in the fight to stop them and defeat them.
And as you mentioned, you're going to be facing Democratic State Senator Nathan Johnson in November. I spoke with him, and he said that he wants to make the office less partisan, more independent. And I'm wondering, what do you think of that? And what are your biggest contrasts, aside from those you've already mentioned?
Well, look, I'm the law and order, tough on crime candidate here. I want to make sure that Texas is the safest state in America to live and raise a family. That's how we keep our families safe. That's how we secure those God granted freedoms of life and liberty and property. And we have to enforce our laws. You know, the problem with the left is they think our laws and Constitution are some sort of suggestion, right? Which is actually a violation of their oath of office. You're supposed to put your hand on the Bible to protect and defend all of our laws, all of the Constitution, and not just some of it. And we've seen the consequences of selective enforcement. Look at what happened on the federal level when Joe Biden was president. 4 years of an open border. We were flooded with cartels. We were flooded with fentanyl. We were flooded with organized crime. And that's what the left stands for. That's their legacy. And they want to do it to us again, but from the inside, this time from our statewide positions, but we will not allow them to win.
And when I was talking with Senator Johnson, he said that if he is elected, that people should expect that he is going to file suit against the Trump administration. And I would imagine it came up when you and I spoke previously that if you are elected and then a Democrat is elected president in 2028, you could see yourself filing lawsuits against that administration. So talk to me a little bit about that. What do you make of that?
Well, look, we had 4 years of lawlessness. We had 4 years of a federal administration that was attacking Texas, not just our jobs, but our way of life, our public safety, compromising the family safety of this great state. And not even just that alone, right? They were going after the fundamental things that make us the greatest state in America. And, you know, Joe Biden was trying to force boys into girls' sports. He was trying to force men into women's restrooms and locker rooms. And that was something they used to say, oh, that's never going to happen. That's a solution in search for a problem. Well, you know what? It did happen. All of the things that everyone said would never happen did. And that's what we're up against. That's the battle that we're up against. And we've got to make sure, and I will make sure, that I back up President Trump, right? Especially in his border security and deportation agenda. Right? That's something that has been under attack from these woke liberal cities like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. They're attempting to become sanctuary cities, which is a violation of our state law. If you do not cooperate with border security, if you do not cooperate with that deportation agenda, you violated your oath of office, right? And that's actually a violation of the ban on sanctuary cities, which allows the AG, me, to bring an action for civil penalties, criminal penalties, and removal from office. You cannot treat our laws and Constitution as a suggestion and follow what you don't and don't follow what you don't like. It does not work that way. That is not how a constitutional republic works. We are not a democracy. All authority in government is from God, and it goes down to those fundamental things that are enumerated in our Declaration of Independence of life, number one, liberty, two, and property, number three.
We saw in the Texas Senate race in the Republican battle, Attorney General Ken Paxton came under heavy fire from Republicans about this deal in which there was a man accused and who pleaded guilty to child sex abuse. And he was given first a 30-day sentence, then the judge doubled it to a 60-day sentence. What do you say to voters about that? And would you assure voters that that wouldn't happen in a Middleton administration?
Look, one of the most important things to me is protecting children. You know, Macy and I are blessed with 4 little ones, and that's my daily reminder of what we're fighting for here. And one of the most important roles in government is protecting kids from harm and holding those accountable that harm our children and hurt kids. And, you know, that's why I fought to ban pornographic books in libraries, fought to ban these things that are harmful for kids, make sure that they're not exposed to pornography and other things of that nature that we know damage them for life. These are priorities of mine from day one in office. I've made sure to put into action. I will enforce those laws. Not only that, I support Governor Abbott's plan for a statewide prosecutor, right? That's going to be proposed next session. I also support adding powers to the Attorney General's office to prosecute any state crime. And the reason why that's important, you got to ask the question, are these things being enforced in blue counties? And the question to that and the answer to that is, of course not, right? Even on election integrity, do we really believe a George Soros DA is going to prosecute voter fraud? No, we don't. That's why this backup power to prosecute is so important in Texas.
So just following up, so a deal like this one, in which the Attorney General had this deal, that's not going to happen if you're Attorney General.
I'm going to make sure I use every resource and tool to lock criminals up that are hurting children.
All right, we will leave it there. State Senator and Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General, Mays Middleton. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jack, appreciate you having me on today.
You bet. We appreciate it.